The Magicians Podcast, brought to you in association with the Magic Circle.
At some point during your magical career, you will have watched a dove act, but unless you've ever performed one, I doubt you have any idea what really goes into one. Today, we aim to change all of that. Welcome to the Magicians Podcast with Edward Hilsum. I'm really excited about this episode today because I know it's not going to be like any other episode so far. Edward Hilsum is a brilliant young magician. He does a fantastic dove act on the Champions of Magic show, and he's also one of those sickeningly ambitious young magicians. They drive me insane. We're going to get to his interview very shortly, but if you haven't done it already, of course, I have to go through some standard procedures. They are to remind you to follow us on Twitter. We are at Magicians Podcast. There is no S on the Magicians, at Magician Podcast. You can also find us on our Facebook page just by searching for the Magicians Podcast. And if you have a spare minute, leave us a little review on iTunes. It really helps us out. Edward Hilsum is currently touring with the Champions of Magic show, which is touring nationally in the spring of 2015. Visit championsofmagic.co.uk for all the tour date and ticket information. For a 23-year-old magician, this guy has achieved so much already, and he really is a star of the future. Here he is then, my friend, and soon to be yours, Edward Hilsum. So here we are with the man himself, Edward Hilsum. How are you, Ed?
I'm very well, thank you. How are you?
I'm good. Thanks for doing this. I appreciate it. I've got a question for you. I've got lots of questions, actually.
That's lucky.
Well, the first one I wanted to know was sort of your journey into magic, and also, most importantly, I know you had a very special guest at your bar mitzvah. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, so I think like all of us, I was fascinated from a very young age. I must have been about 5 or 6 when I really got into it. I got my magic set and started doing little tricks. I think the real turning point was when I must have been 8 or 9 and saw a magician on TV produce doves. I had no idea who it was at the time, and a year or so later I found out it was Lance Burton. And that image just stayed with me, and I knew that's what I wanted to do. Whenever I heard the word magic or thought of magicians, that was the image that came to mind. And that kind of just stayed with me. But yeah, before I ever got my first doves, when I was 13, well, I guess go back a year or 2 before that, I was 11, 12-year-old kid, and everything fascinated me. I was, Darren Brown was doing hypnosis. I wanted to learn about hypnosis, and on a magic site, I saw a pickpocket video, so I thought I need to have this. And I got this DVD. I had no idea who the guy was, but he quickly became, I guess, a hero because he was doing this amazing pickpocketing that I didn't know. It was James Friedman's DVD. I got his book, and it was amazing. So I, as I was getting towards 13, it was my bar mitzvah. My mum asked me who would I like to perform, and I said Lance Burton.
aim big.
No, obviously it was a joke. I never expected Lance to come, but to be honest, I didn't really think there'd be a magician at my bar mitzvah. So then she goes, "Is there anyone else?" And I said James Friedman, because, and again, I didn't really think he'd actually be there, because in my mind as a 12-year-old kid, I thought this guy is like, the best pickpocket in the world. Why would he come to my bar mitzvah? And I completely forgot about it. I didn't even think there'd be magic there. Anyway, the day comes. It was very great. My mum knows how to put an event together. And there was a Toastmaster in this really fancy hall. All our family and friends were coming in. We were lined up, me, my brother, my mum and my dad, greeting everyone. And I'll never forget it. The Toastmaster says, "Please welcome the man of steel, James Friedman." And I'd never met him before. And it was a bit weird. And I was like, it was the moment of starstruck.
So at this point, you'd only ever seen him on the DVD? I've seen
him on the DVD. I thought he had like superpowers. You know, it was incredible, honestly. Seeing him take glasses and belts and all this. And I think I've tried it a little bit at school and I realised very quickly how difficult it was.
So did he do a cabaret, or was he doing walk around?
He did walk around, and I followed him around the groups, and I was his accomplice. He was handing me...
He would have hated you, wouldn't he?
I probably was the kid he hated, yeah, to be honest. But I was fascinated because I'd never ever seen pickpocketing live. And it was this amazing thing that... I think we get into magic because we don't know how it's done, and it fascinates us. Well, I had the same with pickpocketing. I had no idea, even when you know how it's done, well, I guess the same with magic. Once you know how it's done, you appreciate it even more. And it was exactly the same. Seeing him work live was incredible.
So that was the day you met James, who we'll get onto later, you now work very closely with.
Yeah.
But I want to know at what point you decide, I want to be Lance Burton. And and how long did it take to convince your parents that you wanted to have doves?
So to be honest, I think, as I said, after I saw Lance, it was the image that stayed with me. I want to be that guy with those doves. But it was a crazy dream. I never really thought I would. Well, I guess as a kid, I probably did have that dream and thought one day I will, but I didn't really have a time scale on it. And the more I thought about it, the more I saw him, I really followed his career, watching all his specials, the more I really wanted to do it. And I think it was after 13, I said, can I get doves? And they said no, and all the reasons for not having pets, blah, blah, blah. But I kept asking, and I've got every book, every video I could see. I was asking people, I knew no one that did dove magic. I'd never met another dove magician. And I'd say it was about a couple of years of really looking into it and thinking about it and pestering that. And then, a lot of bars of Dove soap for Christmas and birthday as gags, which was always hilarious. After about a couple of years, when I was 15, I got my first doves. We just did it. And obviously, it was my responsibility to do everything, which I completely agreed with. I didn't realise what a nightmare it was at the time.
How much... Tell us about that, because that's something no magicians know. But what is the day-to-day upkeep on doves? And some... I mean, I've been with you, and you've had baby doves.
Yeah.
With the parents backstage. So what is it like? What's involved in just keeping them all the time?
I think the best way I can describe it is they're my pets. And, I think unfortunately a lot of magicians that work with animals treat them as props. But for me, it's always been they're my pets, their health and safety comes first. And if you've got a pet that's living outside, they need food, water, and a safe place to live. And so the first thing was setting up an aviary for them, making sure they were comfy. And I was learning a lot of this as I went along. There's only so much you can get in books and videos and things before you need to really, until you've got them, you don't realise all these other possible issues that come along. But day to day, they need fresh food. And food, will last if you put it in a container that they can't soil. But water as often as possible, and cleaning up the cages. When I started, it was
awful.
Yeah. Cleaning the aviary, I did it every single week. It was my Sunday job.
Also, this is a thing that I was amazed that you told me, which I didn't know, was about how it's quite harmful to be around them a lot. They have something on their feathers or something, which is...
Yeah, they have dander from the feathers, and also their droppings release very, very fine dust, really, which if breathed in can cause quite severe problems. And David Oliver in the States had to have a double lung transplant. Amos Levkovich got very ill. I believe it was related to the doves, and sadly passed away a few years ago. I think it was unrelated. But, yeah, and it is a worry, But for me, when I clean it out, when I'm with them for a long period of time, I wear a mask. But it's like with anything, there's health concerns, and you do what you can to overcome them. But I can't really see my magic without the doves.
Yeah. So how does it... So finally they give in. They let you have the doves. Had you already had an idea for an act before then, or did you just, once you got the doves...
It's funny, actually, just when you said that, I just remember the moment we bought them from the breeder. And I had this horrible feeling when they were on the way home in the car. I realised I'd never held a bird before. So the aviaries were set up. I've never handled a bird. I have no idea. I've seen videos of where to hold them and stuff, but there were 2 doves in the back of our car. I've never touched a bird. And so it was a really weird thing that suddenly I get them home in the aviary. I don't know really how to pick them up. I've seen, but it was a little bit terrifying, but you just go for it. I knew this is what I wanted to do. And
So you started with how many?
with 2, a pair.
Right.
Well, I was told they were a pair. They were both males.
Right.
Which is a notorious thing. It's very difficult to sex a dove. And so putting that together, I was very influenced by Lance Burton, who was the only dove magician I was aware of at the beginning. Then I obviously saw others online, still never live. I'd never seen dove magic live, still, when I first got them. And this was a time actually when YouTube was only just starting. You couldn't really search dove magic and find a lot. There were a couple I managed to find, and the Magic Cafe, actually, I remember I used to use the Magic Cafe a lot, and there was a big section on dove magic, and dove magicians, and I was able to speak to dove magicians who were working, amateurs probably, most of them, but they were very helpful, just things like, how often do I feed them and all this stuff, which as a beginner you don't really know. And so putting that together, I was very influenced by Lance. Before I got the doves, about a year or 2 before, I was working on candle moves and manipulation. That was always, the magic I really liked to see.
Billiard balls?
Yeah, of course. And actually, I think a big factor of me wanting to do doves was I remember at the Young Magicians Club, everyone was doing linking rings and card manips.
This is amazing. So I'm about 10 years older than you, and when I was in the Young Magicians Club, everybody did dove magic.
Right, and so if I was born 10 years earlier, I probably wouldn't have done dove magic, because I was getting sick and tired of seeing linking rings and cards. I was like, I don't want to do that. I want to do a silent act, partly because I was very, very shy and can't speak on stage, or didn't want to speak on stage. I didn't even really think about performing on stage. It was just, I don't want to do what everyone else is doing. So, and being, that's probably why I was so amazed when I saw Lance on TV, because I hadn't seen it live.
Mm.
And I knew I wanted to do something different, and that became the route I had to follow. There was no other option. And so at the beginning, I was a Lance Burton clone. But having said that, I knew I didn't want to wear a tailcoat. I wanted to make it modern. In my head, changing the music made it modern, which I realised, there's a lot more to do it than that. But yeah, I always wanted, so even saying I wanted to do what Lance was doing, I always did want to make it different. Although the props were the same at the beginning, they changed a little bit, but they're still classical. It's classical magic, really, even to this day, that I do in the act. But I was very keen to use modern music and wear a more modern style, even if it was still a classical act.
So how did you construct the act? So, did the doves get placed around the stuff you'd already learnt with the candles and the billiard balls and things, or?
I think the moment I started learning stage magic, it was very much, I'm doing this for a dove act. So as soon as I became part of the Young Magicians Club, I had this kind of big dream to win Young Magician of the Year, which is something I became aware of very early, and Young Magician of the Year became a deadline for me, kind of this 4-year goal. And that is what I created this act for. I knew, okay, it has to be 10 minutes. Okay, everyone's doing, I got 5 years worth of competitions and watched them. Every winner did a silent act. Okay, I need to do a silent act, which I already wanted to do. Yeah, so I put this act together. Yeah, I think, because I remember learning candle moves and billiard ball moves, and I didn't have the doves yet. So I just knew I loved that silent manipulation style on stage and trying to make it modern. I used modern music and choreographed my moves to that. And but I've always kind of had a way of thinking, like, as a routine. So I wouldn't just do billiard balls, then pick up a hanky and do a candle routine. I would always try and segue them so it really flowed. That's like me. I realised that the acts I really liked, that's what they did. It wasn't just pick up a prop, do it, put it down, pick up another prop. Everything flowed into each other. And I got a lot of dove magic videos, and I remember Tony Clark being a set. I realised, okay, that's how you feed a dove. That's how you do this move and that move. I don't want to talk too much about method because I know this is public, but it took a long time. But
did someone help you?
So at the beginning, no, it was all from these videos and books. I then remember actually I did see a dove act live, and I realised, thank God I didn't see this before I started, because it was, I won't name them, but it was horrible. I thought, if this is what dove magic is, I don't want to do it. So
it was a bad act,
it was
or
a
the guy?
really, it was a, everything came out of a prop. It was,
Right.
I don't want to say too much because it will identify them, but it just wasn't good.
Right.
And I felt really lucky that I'd seen Lance Burton on video, because I wouldn't have seen him live. But that, to me, was what dove magic should be. Everything was invisible. I watched him hundreds and hundreds of times, and it was 100% invisible. So that kind of became my mentor, because I wasn't happy. I videoed all my rehearsal. I wasn't happy till it looked like that. And so I could watch it back, and I couldn't see what was happening. And after about a year, I entered J-Day and didn't get placed. I then... It's a funny story, actually. I was at my school, and I wanted more doves. I only had 2 before this. And I got speaking to the guy next to me, just sitting next to me randomly one day, and he said his brother's a magician. I thought, oh, okay, because at the time I thought I was the best magician in the world, as every young magician who's learnt a few tricks does. He goes, yeah, and he has doves. So then I suddenly thought, oh, well, yeah, I didn't know anyone in the country that did dove magic. And he was Kieran Shotton, his brother was Jonathan Shotton. So I got to know him quite well, and he was the first magician who really helped me. He was a massive influence on my magic and gave me a lot of advice, because it was amazing actually speaking to a dove magician for the first time. And
how much older is Jonathan than you? Is he already had an act established at that point?
Yeah, he's a few years older than me, in his mid-20s. But at that time, he was... I think he's about 4 years older than me. I may be wrong. Yeah, I think he is, about that. And yeah, to this day, a big chunk of my act is still pretty much what he created for me, and we created together.
Oh, wow.
Especially, he was the first person to talk about light and shade to me, and he introduced the middle chunk with the rose, which I know you've seen my act a lot, but it's a slower part in the middle of the act, and before that it was all very fast paced. So he had a big influence on me and my style on stage.
Talk to me about Young Magician of the Year, because this is you've told me this story before, and it made me fall in love with you, actually. So, first of all, let me ask you, you put the act together.
So Jonathan helped me, but...
are you practicing every day when you come in from school?
Yeah, so even before that, I know this is jumping back and forth, but before I'd ever been on stage, when I was 15, I worked with I guess looking back, he would have been a theatrical director. Basically, my mum sings in an a cappella group. She's in the top group in the country. They won the gold medal. And
she's kept that quiet?
Yeah, she's a fantastic singer. Just in her spare time, she loves it. It's a hobby. But that means she's got lots of singing friends, and obviously that's very related to theatre, and a lot of their partners are involved in theatre. And so when I started putting this act together, I was extremely shy. I would be the last person to do anything on stage at school. And she said, would you like me to ask my friend if her husband would, have a session with you? I said, of course, I need all the help I can get, because I knew I wanted to share magic with people, but I didn't really know how to stand on stage or anything. So I'd entered J-Day, but I still had never been on stage. I didn't realise, but obviously to a theatre professional who's never been involved in magic, it was an exciting thing for him to be with a young kid who wants to learn, and he was getting an insight into another world, and he was teaching me. So from when I was 15, I was being told about having an internal monologue, how to stand, how to take a bow.
Embarrassingly, I was only told about the internal monologue about 3 weeks ago. It's not even a joke.
You're welcome. Yeah, so, and this was a year before. This would have been the February before J-Day, which the auditions were in September. And I was practicing the act every single day. Even without the doves, I was practicing. I would get home from school, do the act, then do my homework. Or the other way around. Every single day, apart from Sundays where I cleaned the aviary. And I filmed every...
because it's just a funny image. Is this in your mum and dad's living room? Are you doing the dove act in your...
So originally it was we got a shed built next to the aviary together, and that's where I kept all the dove props and stuff. And I was actually doing it in the shed, but then it got to winter time, it got a lot colder, and my props got bigger. And it came into the lounge. And that's still where I rehearse to this day.
How have you never burnt the place down? I've seen how many
Very
pyros.
close, very, very close to it. There's lots of singe marks. I actually throw the matches in the act, and that's what I do on the carpet, because I need to practice exactly how it's going to be on stage. And I didn't put anything over the carpet. And I have practiced a few new pyro tricks and very nearly burnt the house down.
You have got the
occasions.
best mum ever.
My whole family's incredible. My mum and dad are the best. Yeah, who else would let their kids do what I did? I used to practice with the confetti at home because I need to know how much to use. So there's confetti everywhere, matches everywhere, pyro.
I hope you don't mind me saying this, but I learned so much about Ed over the last few months working with him, and there's something that Ed does for his act which I've watched. And very early in the act, you produce a black and white streamer.
It's the opening thing. Yeah.
It's the opening thing, and as you produce it, there's a load of confetti. And I think you wouldn't disagree. I think it passes the audience by, the confetti. But I've watched you get it ready, and it takes, 15 minutes or something like that? And you cut them different lengths.
About that.
So that they go in different directions and fall at different rates. The detail is unbelievable.
I'm a bit obsessive with it, actually, and that's probably thanks to Ali Bongo, who, talking about people that helped me, was one of the first after I performed at J-Day in the Young Magicians Club. Ali was a big influence and created the Silk to Rose that's still in the act and told me how to do it properly. But yeah, confetti, that was one of Ali's big loves, and I guess that was infectious. He said, use more, you need more, it needs to be all the way down the streamer. And I do something that he didn't do. He always said it needs to be 2 by 1, that's the magic dimension. But I have 3 different sizes in the streamer, so they fall at different rate. Yeah, but you know what, when you see the pictures, well, actually, this comes in something that you mentioned, the working with theatre people. Joni Spina was a massive impact on my magic, and she made me think of my magic in snapshots. So
Joni, if you don't know, she was David Copperfield's assistant, but she was also his choreographer as well, and she worked with him.
She was the artistic director for, I think, a large chunk of his television career and stage career. So she choreographed most, if not all, of the television specials and a lot of his stage work. Yeah, she got me to think of my magic in terms of snapshots, which means in my head I'm thinking of, well, the basic message is, imagine there's a photographer at the back of the room wanting to take a photo. What do you want him to take a photo of? You need to pause at those moments. And that can be an applause cue for the audience, but it means that you focus on these images throughout your act. It means you hold them and you communicate something. And saying about the confetti, because that's when I know I've got it right, because that's the image I want to create, is confetti filling that frame, and with me in the centre, my arms out, and that streamer going towards the camera. And when I look at photos that photographers have taken, without me saying, take a photo at this point, and they get that image, that's when you know you've got it right.
Wow, yeah. That's amazing. I didn't realise that it had been considered to that level.
Yeah, and well, I think it is an obsession, really. It is something I worked on for, I've been doing the act for 8 years nearly.
And how long, I've watched you do bits of it, but I mean, the act is 9 minutes 50 seconds?
9 minutes 43.
And how long is the preparation from when you arrive?
From when I arrive, it's 2 hours till I'm ready to go on stage.
Unbelievable.
So it's a 2-hour setup, an hour to pack it up after the show.
And I've seen it, all the silks are ironed, and like I said, I've
actually never once ironed the silks.
Well, they look ironed. How?
It's the way you pack them. It's something I've had a go at you for doing it. I've got the same silks I've used for about 5 years. They last if you take care of them. You don't need to iron them. It's how you fold them and how you carry them.
So we've kind of got off the point a little bit, but so tell me about your journey with Young Magician of the Year.
Yeah, so Young Magician of the Year was pretty much, as soon as I joined the Young Magicians Club, the youth part of the Magic Circle, it became, okay, I must win this to become a professional magician.
You'd seen all the pictures of all the previous winners.
You got them up against the wall. Dominic Wood, who was, I saw on TV.
Phil Hitchcock, another Dove act.
Yeah.
He'd won it. Russ Stevens told me in another episode his was an act with a dog. And
really?
Stuff like that, yeah. Like it's a who's who, isn't it, that wall?
Yeah, so that became, I guess that was the reason to be, I knew I wanted to do Dove Magic, but that was a big, big goal, and I didn't really have a plan B. In my head, I was creating this act, and I was going to win Young Magician of the Year, and I was going to be a magician. And so everything was going to plan. I did J-Day. I didn't get placed. I did J-Day the following year and won it in 2008. So I was
You were the favourite.
I would have been the junior day winner going into Young Magician of the Year. Everyone was telling me how amazing I am. So, I'd had a fair bit of success going into it, I would say.
When I was a kid, the prize of Junior Day was automatically going into the final of Young Magician of the Year. Was that still the case?
No, it wasn't, because I did the heats, which were a few months before the final, and it went perfectly, and I got through to the final. And I was ready. It was a big day. All my friends and family were there. I had 4 rows at the Magic Circle of support. And the act went perfectly. Everyone came up to me, "You've done it, well done, well done." I was getting congratulated before the awards.
So people were telling you you'd won it?
Yeah. And I thought I'd won it. And
did you watch the other acts?
No, I couldn't.
So
it was the
just
most nervous I'd ever been. It was,
it was such telling you.
It was such a big moment. It sounds silly now, but it was like the most important thing of my life. That's the reason I did this act. That's the reason. I didn't really see anything after Young Magician of the Year other than I'd be a magician.
It's the reason you cleared up the bird shit every day.
Yeah. And, the reason I got home, did the homework and then practiced. And I didn't get placed. And it was...
I remember you telling me specifically about this. Is obviously, as you know, with competitions, they say third.
Yeah.
Second.
Oh, so the worst bit was we were all standing up on stage. I was the first act in the competition, so I was closest to the trophies. I was there, president of the Magic Circle, right? And they give third place, second place, and obviously, when you think you're going to win, as you should.
How old were you at this point?
This was 2009, so I was. I would have been 18. Would I have been 18? Yeah, I was 18. It was my last year at school. So yeah, third place, second place come. And when you think you're going to win, you're like, okay, they're going to read out my name next. And obviously first place came and went to Michael Jordan, who deserved it. And I was devastated. It was like I didn't know what to do, really. I thought I was going to win. I was told I would, and I didn't really have a plan B. And after that, I remember really being very close to giving up and not doing the act anymore, and not really wanting to do magic anymore.
What was it like those first few days afterwards?
Well, it was probably the best thing, actually, because 2 days after that final, I was booked to go and perform in Buffalo, New York, in the Stars of Tomorrow show at the IBM convention, because I was basically at the Young Magicians Club. If you won J-Day, you kind of automatically became the young British magician who performs in that show. It was the last thing I wanted to do at the time, but that really helped, because it was a date I couldn't turn down. I was going to New York 2 days after. Last thing I wanted to do, but it was lovely because I got a lot of support. Basically, I didn't tell anyone about it over there. It was another world that it didn't happen, basically, that last week. And everyone was telling me how great I was, which is what you kind of need as a performer after a not so great moment. And that, if that hadn't happened, I don't know if I would have carried on with it. But I did, and looking back, it probably was really good that happened, because it made me take everything into perspective. I think if I'd have won, I would have thought I deserved everything on a plate. And of course, winning a competition doesn't give you that. But there's this aura around Young Magician of the Year that it just felt like you become successful just from that title. Obviously, you don't. But I think I would not have worked hard after Young Magician of the Year if I'd have won it.
It's a tough job. It is ridiculous that an act like yours that has so much work and preparation is so... It almost in some ways seems ridiculous to compare it to a patter act in some ways, doesn't it?
It was the last time I ever took a competition seriously, and I realised a competition is 4 people's subjective opinions on one day. So basically what I mean by that is you can take those same 4 people, give them the same competition, and there would be a different result on another day. And there's so many factors that affect that decision. It doesn't matter. It's a numbers game, and some you win, some you lose. Most you will lose.
Stand by. Here it comes. Here it comes.
Gigio, free for 30 days. Be a pro, get Gigio.
Yes, ladies and gentlemen, there it is. Gigio, my friends at Gigio, and they have a jingle. That's how good the product is. The jingle proves it, because you cannot secure artists as good as that guy to write songs about things unless the thing is brilliant. If you don't know what Gigio is, it's a web-based software designed for professional entertainers. It tracks your payments, generates PDF contracts, and, ladies and gentlemen, it takes care of all of your admin to ensure you have time available to do other things. Especially when it's a busy time of the year, you do not have to be in the office because it's web-based. Anyway, where you can get an internet connection, you can go to your Gigio account, read what others are saying about it, and, as you heard in the jingle, take a free 30-day trial right now at gigio.co.uk. That's Gigio, spelled Giggio.co.uk. Listen to the man, be a pro, get Gigio. If you missed it, here it is again.
Gigio, free for 30 days. Be a pro, get Gigio.
The Magicians Podcast, brought to you in association with the Magic Circle, the world's premier magical society. Are you ready to join the world's most exclusive magic club? Visit themagiccircle.co.uk to find out more.
So you're 18 and then you go off to uni. And while you're at uni, you've created this thing called Love Variety. Tell us a little bit about it.
So I went to uni. I'd already done quite a lot of magic by the time I was 18. And actually at my school, in my last year at school before I went to uni, I was already very passionate about getting talented people on stage. And I remember my school was very academic, and there was this little competition called Tunbridge Has Talent. And I really wanted to do one at my school, so we did that. And as I was doing more and more shows, I was meeting incredible artists, not just magicians. You know, in the cabaret circuit, you meet all sorts of wonderful people. And I used to tell my friends about these people I was working with, and they had no idea who they were. Obviously, you know, the best performers in the country aren't necessarily known to the public. So it was something I became really passionate about. As I started uni, I was very involved in the Magic Society there. I wanted to put on quality shows to build up the reputation of the society. And I also wanted to get magic out there, but I realised if I made it broader to not just magicians performing in these shows, there'd be an even, not just a wider audience, but I'd be able to get more amazing people to perform. And so I set myself a target to put on a big magic show, a big variety show, in my final year at university. And I just asked some of my favourite acts would they come down. It was going to be one night, and I remember being amazed that everyone said yes. I couldn't believe it. And it received so much support from the acts, even before that night had happened, that one night became 3 nights. Because basically I got a list of people I wanted to come. I didn't even get halfway down that list and everyone had already said yes, which I just was not expecting at all. And it blew me away, really did, the reception it received from the acts that wanted to perform. They loved coming to perform. And it allowed me to share variety theatre with, like modern variety theatre, with people my age who just don't see it. You know, they think variety is Britain's Got Talent. Bad singers and bad dancers.
Hey, you've done Britain's Got Talent, haven't you? You had a bad experience.
Yeah, I did. Well, again, this was very early on. I was in the second series. So actually, this was after I did my first J-Day. I didn't get placed. So it was a similar feeling to after Young Magician of the Year, actually, in that I just created this act. I've been rehearsing it for a year and I hadn't got placed. So it was hard, but it was the first time I'd ever done. And the next show I decided, I performed on the dub act twice. My next performance was on Britain's Got Talent in front of those 3 judges at the Hackney
Who were
Empire.
the judges that
It was
year?
the original panel: Simon Cowell, Amanda Holden, and Piers Morgan. And I was told, I'd get everything. I'd dressing room backstage, all this, all that. I got none of that.
Yeah.
My dressing room was the toilet backstage. I was waiting for hours. Anyway, they lied to me. I still wanted to do it because I was like, yes, I'm going to be the magician that does this and prove the magic circle wrong, And my first dub flew away, landed on top of one of the X's, and I'll never forget it, actually. I can remember it like it was yesterday. Simon Cowell held up his hand, said, stop the music, the dove's up there. And I go, yeah, but can I just carry on? I was a tiny little kid on stage. I would have been 16, but I looked about 10. And I remember the audience booing Simon, Amanda really being the motherly figure, being really on my side, having an argument. The audience were booing Simon, Amanda and Simon were having a big argument. She was saying, let him carry on. He was going, no, we need to get the dove down. But long story short, they let me carry on. So I get ready to carry on the act. My music starts from the beginning. And everything I do is choreographed to music meticulously.
Yeah.
So I knew I'm about a minute and a half into the act with what I've done, but my music started from the beginning. And I knew if I stand there for a minute and a half, I'm going to get 3 buzzes very quickly. So I did the act to different music, in essence, but I knew I couldn't just stop. And the rest went perfectly. The audience gave a massive cheer, and Amanda and Piers loved it and put me through. So I got through to this invisible next round that doesn't really exist, and didn't make it through to the live shows. And the executive producer comes out to me and goes, we're going to use that again and again. It was amazing. We loved you. Can we film getting your dove back? I had interviews. They phone me on the week it goes out and say, you're going to be on this week. We just want to check that we got your name right and all this. Tell all your friends and family to watch it. Well done. The Saturday comes. I was actually performing at the Magic Circle, but I told everyone there, I'm going to be on tonight. Airs, I'm on for 5 seconds and they show my dove flying away, and I'm in a compilation of when magic goes wrong or something like that. And that was my lesson. I don't want to do TV.
Wow. So, sorry, love variety.
So the variety shows, I became extremely passionate about sharing the best variety acts with people that don't get to see them. And this one show, it was going to be a one-off show, became 3. Okay, that was it. I've done 3 shows. Thank you very much. I then got asked by the Magic Circle to do one there, which was a great honour. We did one at the Circle, and this was going to be, okay, this is my curtain call show. Let's make this the biggest one ever. And we had, you were in it, you and Strange hosted it. Very nicely done.
Thank you. Yeah. Still waiting for the check though. So.
Yeah. Let's not talk about that.
We're not really.
But it was we did the show as a fundraiser for the Magic Circle. Yeah. And everyone was very gracious, supporting the Circle and the variety show. And it was a 3.5 hour show.
It was long. Yeah, I remember.
But I remember
they were a great audience.
I remember Peter, who ran the building, saying, well done. He's the one that had to lock up, right? He's saying it's the first show I've ever watched all the way through and stayed till the end. And
the lineup was ridiculous, though, wasn't it?
I just asked, the people I really loved.
It was amazing.
And I mean, that and every show I really wanted to be completely different. Every show I set myself the target of having a surprise act. People that, a complete surprise.
Piff closed that one, didn't he?
Piff was the surprise at the Magic Circle.
Yeah, it was brilliant. And that was fresh off the back of Fool Us as well, wasn't it?
Yeah. And I also set myself the target of I want every person in that audience to leave having seen something they've never seen before. And of course, exceed expectations of what is possible live. And I think I did that every time. I was really proud of what those shows achieved. And so, although I thought that 4th one was going to be the last one, we did another one at the Magic Circle. They wanted it back because it was such a popular night, and the audience were young. It was a student audience, and they were dying for this sort of entertainment. And then I left university, but wanted to keep it going. And again, I was passionate about really having a variety of nights. So I went back to the university and actually did a one-man show. So we presented Luke Germain's mind reading show. Incredible show. You know, you got a standing ovation at the end, phenomenal, blew us all away. And after that, we launched. It became Love Variety, which was something that can take variety into another place and keep it going, really keep it alive.
So what's the plan with it going into the future?
So most recently, we presented a show in Edinburgh, which, going back to being a 13-year-old kid, it was incredible to work with James Friedman on his show Man of Steel, which really, I think, took pickpocketing to a new place.
That is an incredible show. Incredible show. And you were, I know you were a big part of every aspect of that show.
I was certainly involved in it. Yeah. I remember actually, it was just after I finished university. I got to know James a little bit better throughout my last year at uni. He was one of the first people I asked to be in the variety shows, and was thrilled when he said yes. And we got chatting, and he was asking me what my plans for the future. And to be honest, I knew I wanted to do magic.
What was your degree in?
I studied psychology. And
so did you not consider ever going further down that route with that, or was it just you knew it was magic?
University was very much my plan B. I mean, looking at what I achieved at university, the magic opportunities that arose were amazing, and wouldn't have happened if I don't regret going to uni. I loved it, and a lot of the things I've done with magic wouldn't have happened, especially not the variety shows. But I remember, as I got to know James a bit better after university, he phoned me up and we were having a conversation, and he said, "You put shows together, how would you like to..." I remember he said, "Would you like to direct my Edinburgh show?" I thought, blimey, I can't direct a show, let alone, you know, why would you want me doing it?
Oh, yes, you can.
And I don't know if I don't know if I really directed it, but we definitely, you know, did it all together. And that was a big thing, that we found together we had this amazing relationship in that he was...
Well, you work with James day to day, don't you?
Yeah.
You sort of work close-up events with him, close-up magic, and you also run magicians.co.uk alongside him, is that fair to say? You're sort of...
I help him out with the office work, you know, that needs to be done, and we talk magic the rest of the time.
Yeah.
And yeah, we basically found that we work really well together. I think we have very complementary abilities is kind of the wrong word, but he's very much he's incredible at structuring magic and thinking of how best to present something, and he's the master of coming up with script and wording things and doing something on that evening. We've come up with it, he will go out and do it like he's done it 100 times already. Whereas my background is very much the visual stage performance, putting music to things, and like I said, thinking in terms of images really. And together this show just evolved, and I think it's fair to say exceeded both of our expectations.
Well, it was incredibly well received, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was phenomenal, the reception it received.
Not a bad word about it really anywhere, and great reviews, and I mean, is it also that you're thinking about now taking your own show to Edinburgh next year perhaps?
Yeah, that's very much the plan, is that I will be doing my own show in Edinburgh next year.
Brilliant, can't wait to see it. So the other thing, of course, is Champions of Magic. You've been on with me, you've been annoying me every day, watching us loading in our illusions, and Ed stands by the door while we're struggling and goes, "I'm already set up, you know, you guys, look at you struggling with all this stuff." He's brilliant at that. But tell me, we got...
To be fair, you do the same to me.
I do the same to you, yeah.
It's not making a dick.
That's not true. But as we speak today, we've only got one date of the tour left. But we've done this tour. It was 18 dates we've done, but you've done every Champions of Magic show over the last 2 years.
Apart from the ones in Jersey, which unfortunately overlapped with Edinburgh. I was really committed to.
Tell me a little bit about Champions of Magic from your point of view. Enjoy it. And
again, it was an incredible thing. I remember getting the email thinking, well, this is another thing that sounds amazing, that's never going to happen. But I thought, if it does, how amazing would that be? I was coming to my last year at university, And it was really the perfect timing because originally it was going to be 2 shows that autumn, so autumn last year, 2013. And again, there's been numerous points where I was close to giving up the Dove Act. And after I finished uni, I'd worked on a lot of pattern material and new material that went in that visual stage magic route. But I kind of developed a new thinking of where I want my magic to go. And the Dove Act didn't really fit. I was doing, to explain the Dove Act, I was doing in village halls with, to magicians competitions, and it's not the place I wanted to be working. And Champions of Magic came along, and suddenly I got the opportunity to perform the Dove Act in big theatres with pyrotechnics, amazing lighting, to the public, to family audiences. And I realised that's where the Dove Act has its place. It's a style of magic that the public have never seen before. Like me, when I saw Lance Burton on TV, you don't get even Lance on TV anymore. They just don't see it, let alone live. And
the cost of admission to a Champions of Magic show is worth the money just to see the opening of the show with Ed's Dove Act. Because, like you said, I don't think anyone in this country has ever done a Dove Act on the scale that you're doing it as you are in Champions of Magic, with the production that's behind you, the lighting, the pyrotechnics. I've never seen that in this country. I've seen it in Vegas, but I've never seen it here. So I think
even if you forget about the Dove Act, I don't think magic's really been produced on that. The Illusionist came over, but I think as a UK, group of performers and production, I think it's an amazing thing to be part of that hasn't really been done for a long time.
Book a seat down the front, because when Ed comes on,
you will get covered in confetti.
You get covered in confetti, but also when Ed is introduced, there is a very large explosion above Ed's head. And if you look really closely, and you can get Ed's face through the darkness, you can see at that moment you are shitting yourself, aren't you? Basically, you're about to be blown up.
Are we allowed to swear?
Yeah, of course we are.
I will never forget the first time Alex, our producer, loves surprising us with pyro. So I remember once I was prepared to go on stage. Literally, the audience are in, and he goes, "Oh yeah, by the way, we've added a pyro to the beginning." So I didn't know. And it slowly got bigger, and he will double the pyro without telling us. And after go, "Yeah, did you notice that?" "Yes, we bloody did."
we had the same thing the first one we did, and he said, "I'll just let you know there's going to be some pyros."
Yeah.
And I said, "Right, okay."
And we used to little flashes from our hands and stuff.
Well, you do it. The best bit of your act is when the pen flashes with pyro. I love that bit. But he said there's going to be pyro, and I said, and the same thing. Just we're about to go on, and I said, "Do we need to know anything about that?" And he went, "Yeah, don't stand too near the back." That was all he said.
Yeah, I remember the same thing. So he goes, "Yeah, you're just going to stand in the middle and it's going to go off above you." I go, "Well, is this dangerous? Could I get set on fire?" And he just shrugged and said, "Maybe." And that was kind of terrifying.
So you're on the tour next spring as well. The Champions of Magic goes into next spring as well. I want to finish off by playing a little game with you.
Yeah. A
new game, which I've come up with to finish my podcasts. And I like this game. It's not a long game, by the way. It's word association.
Okay.
So I've got a list of things I think are relevant to you. It's a very short list. And I just want you to tell me what comes into your mind when you hear it. And you can be as brief or as detailed as you like. Okay? So we're going to start with a really easy one.
Okay.
What this means to you, Lance Burton.
Hero, inspiration. Thinking hero, they say never meet your heroes, but I was lucky to meet him. I went to Vegas to see his show, and I'll never forget, he came out and met me afterwards, gave me a little book of advice that he'd written, and...
Did he really?
Yeah, and I felt so special. He's taken the time out after his show to come and meet me. I later found out he does that to every single kid who writes to him. He will take the time after his 2-hour show and meet that kid. And so I am one of hundreds, if not thousands, of young magicians who has been inspired personally by Lance Burton. He got that book published just to give to kids after the show. I was speechless when he came out. He's the reason I do dog magic. And that moment stuck with me, that, because after Champions, it does feel very weird that little kids come up to us. And, actually very recently, I was talking to a kid who met who came and saw the show a few months ago, about 6 months ago, and I've just given him 2 doves.
Wow.
And I realised he is 15, which is the age I was when I got my first 2 doves. And it's like, most of my heroes being so amazing and welcoming to me has really, I think, I don't want to be anything else to anyone that, might be inspired by what I do.
Britain's Got Talent.
I don't want to swear. My initial thing with Britain's Got Talent is a horrible machine that takes advantage of vulnerable people. It builds them up to knock them down. I met a lot of people on the show that were vulnerable people that have been told by producers they were amazing, that just get destroyed the moment they go on stage. But there is another side over the last couple of years. James Moore and Darcy Oakes, they've really built them up to incredible levels of, Darcy's going to do now a special on ITV around Christmas. And obviously James Moore has done wonderful things since. So I think it can be great for Magic, and especially now a magician just winning America's Got Talent. Hopefully they're starting to see Magic is cool and can be something worth putting on the show. But you're 100%, it's up to them what they do with it.
And it's just not for everybody, is it? It's not for everybody.
There's no way I would do it. No, again, after my experience with them.
I know you do the odd close-up magic gig. Close-up magic, how do you feel about close-up magic?
I love performing magic, whether it's on stage or close-up. Obviously, my stage magic is what I love doing the most. Close-up, I found I've kind of had a reverse of what I used to like. What I used to hate is now what I love. And my favourite gigs are going around someone's house. You're there for an hour or so and you're a guest, and you're just mingling, doing magic that way, as opposed to going around 15 dinner tables in an evening being an interruption. Which is what
that's a lovely way of putting it, yeah.
When I was a shy starting out performer, I used to hate those gigs where I needed a lot, I used to think I need an hour of material if I'm going around to a small group of people, but actually you get to know people and have fun with them, whereas I feel like when you're going around the dinner tables, a lot of the time you're an interruption, and obviously you make it so you're not an interruption, but in essence that's what you are, and I just don't enjoy it as much as having a more intimate group of people, going around someone's house sort of thing, or being on stage.
Marco Carvo.
Legend. I would say the best dub act I've ever seen live. Obviously Lance was always special for me because I was seeing what got me into magic. He was probably always been my favourite. It's hard to say he's my favourite, but when I saw Marco Carvo live, he took it to another place. His finesse, Lance was invisible, I never saw anything, even though when I knew where to look, but I'd never seen a parrot production so clean. And I don't want to talk too much about method, but normally when someone produces a parrot, there's a bit of fumbling, and then this parrot appears. Marco would come centre stage, and a parrot would appear over the heads of an audience, fly over and back to him. His control. And one of my favourite moments was I was lucky to meet him backstage at the London Palladium, and I asked him, because he's from Finland, I said, how do you travel with your dove and your birds, your parrots? How do you do it? Because I had a little bit of experience struggling to get my birds abroad. And he's just said, they're family. And for me, that just summed it all up.
Yeah, he's incredible, yeah. That gave me goosebumps then when you said about when he threw the bird over the audience. I was there, I remember it. And do you know what? I've done lots of these podcasts now, and lots of magicians on this have mentioned that as their favourite. I used to ask the question, what was your favourite live performance of magic? And lots of them, it seems almost everyone that was there that night and saw Carvo throw the birds at the Palladium says it's that.
Do you know what's interesting? That is a classical dove act. And so many magicians have said to me, it's dated, you can't do it now. I've been in competitions where people have said, it's just a current day audience doesn't get it.
That's not true.
And the fact, the power, once you've seen it done well, as hopefully I do, I try to, I think it is timeless.
Magic competitions.
There's two sides to it. I think you can't take them seriously, but when you're a kid and you've never done one before, it's the most important thing in your life. And I think if it wasn't for magic competitions, I wouldn't be doing magic. It was the first chance I got to perform my dove act. They are an amazing place to perform when you're young and be seen. I I met Bobby Bernard. That's how I met Joni Spina. She was a judge in a competition in Las Vegas. You meet, that competition I did in Las Vegas was sponsored by Lance Burton. And so he was there, Siegfried and Roy were there. I mean, magic competitions are an amazing place to get feedback and meet other magicians, especially when you're new to magic. And it's nice to get some recognition every now and then, But I think to take them seriously can be deadly.
And to take this full circle, the guy you had at your bar mitzvah, James Friedman.
James Friedman. Yeah, it's a weird one because he genuinely started off as a hero. He's someone I never really thought I'd meet. And someone I now see most days. It's incredible. I had a lot of respect from back then. I respect him even more now. He influences pretty much every magic thing I do and non-magic thing, really. Yeah, lucky to call him a friend, I would say.
Well, so you've been so busy talking that you haven't noticed actually I've scoffed your pizza while you've been...
Yeah, where did that go?
So, as I'll make it up to you, I'll go and clean up the bird shit in the aviary, is that all right?
Yeah, deal.
Brilliant. Thanks, Ed. Love you to bits. Well done.
Yeah.
Cheers. Thanks, Edward, for your time. If you've not seen him perform live before, there are many opportunities to see the Dove act we discussed on the Champions of Magic Tour, which will be touring nationally in the spring of 2015 between February and April. It will be going to Swansea, Hayes, Coventry, Newbury, Harlow, St Albans, Glenrothes, York, Greenock, Barrow-in-Furness, Darlington, Hull, Ayr, Inverness, Clacton and Reading. And guess what? If you go along to a Champions of Magic show, you get to see my silly arse doing illusions too. Thanks very much for tuning in this week, everybody. See you next time. Cheers. Goodbye.